Well, well, well. What do we have here? Everyone's back to work and they're bullish, especially those Wall Street analysts sharpening their pencils, coming back with a variety of picks. I don't even know if we stayed here until noon, we wouldn't be able to cover them all. Everything's moving this morning, mostly on the upside. CEO guest at 8:35, something a little bit different. Dennis with his long-awaited trading acronym. Let's get the official year started here, January 6th on pre-market prep.
The volatility right now is really incredible.
Wow, look at that consolidation on the upper right chart.
You know what we've seen this earnings season? Some of these expected moves get even more violent. This is why I have switched my strategy 10 years ago. And if you're chasing, you're in trouble.
All right, folks, just like that, we are back up at last week's high at 36 and a quarter. Little weakness overnight, but we are up 45 handles at 60, 34.50, back over that 6K level. A weak buck, well, that's helping things out. Down 82 cents here, 107.97. TLT flat, 87.30. Crude a little bit weak. USO down 41 cents at 77.51. GLD up 37 cents, 243.86. Silver, that's up much more on a percentage basis, up 51 cents, SLV 27.49. And Bitcoin, maybe we need to get used to a six-figure number on that. Bitcoin futures up $890 at 100,120. Let me stop the screen share here. Let's bring on Triple D and Christian Fromhertz. Do you want to get the sports out of the way right away?
Yes. And wow. I don't know if anybody saw that coming, but that was a beatdown. The Lions are for real here. Obviously, it's the showdown for first place. And you know what? The first half was concerning because the offense didn't have it going, but the defense was just unbelievable. And then the second half, the offense took over too. And just a fabulous game to watch. Fabulous, moment in time as a Lions fan. Long-suffering Lions fans are like, just, this is unbelievable to see this happen for them. With, obviously, before last season, one playoff victory. I mean, it's just been such a painful ride. I've been alive for 48 years. And the Lions have just been, we had the Sanders days and those were kind of fun, but it wasn't like this. This is an unbelievable feeling as a Lions fan.
And I was watching it with the girls, and I made up a nickname for Sam Darnold. Not a great nickname, and they were a little mad at me. They said I was being mean. I called him Sam Fraudold. He's a fraud, and that's what happened. That guy got totally exposed. But Christian, I know you're a beaten down Giants fan, or yeah, Giants. That's correct. There's always next year. We got too much to cover here, Dennis. And as we were discussing, Wall Street analysts, holy mackerel, they lit a
awake
fire
from their slumber. Awake from their slumber. The news, though, so we're going to go into the analyst ratings in a second, but if you want to know the driver today, it's the tariff talk. And it's the tariff talk that is a little bit lighter than maybe what Wall Street feared. So obviously, tariffs. We know Trump's about tariffs here. But Christian, you were saying it sounds like, from what we're hearing here overnight, is that it's not going to be as maybe aggressive as what the market had feared.
What a shocker. What a shocker.
Yeah, looks like they're focusing on, they're kind of just dialing that back a little bit and talking about critical areas, things like rare earths, things that, the semis, which everybody kind of views important. And, the big move is, really a huge move in the dollar this morning. I think the dollar is indicated down at this point, 1%, right? This just all of a sudden, we started to hear last week about, it hit the financial media, even though the dollar's been going up for like 2 months. But all of a sudden, like everybody started to come out with their notes about, oh my God, what the dollar is doing. So this provides a lot of relief to a lot of areas. If you look at, again, we have a lot of movers this morning, but I see a lot of the metals moving, like copper, for example, is making a nice move. So perhaps you're going to see that relief bounce in some of the really beaten down areas. And we talked about this just in Friday. We talked about how a lot of the areas like the material stocks, the metals and mining, steel stocks, which we talked about U.S. Steel on Friday, but a lot of those names are going to get a bounce, based on this with that big dollar move.
Yeah, big time here. I mean, you can look at Nucor Steel, which has just been beat down for the last month. I'm long the thing, and it's been an ugly ride. It's having a big pop here this morning, up $400. U.S. Steel getting a pop as well, obviously. You want to look into rare earth MP Materials trading up 7% here this morning. But, just overall, I think just this market sentiment has been very nervous, even myself, worried about, tariffs coming in and starting to cause inflation again. So any type of news that it may not be aggressive as we thought is good for the markets. And that's why you're seeing this market rally here this morning and the US dollar sell off significantly here. So big pops here. Individual stories are all over the place, and they are mostly because of analyst ratings here. This day, folks, if you're not aware, typically the first Monday in January is one of the biggest analyst ratings days of the year. Why is that? The analysts are trying to get out there and get their 2025 calls. And just like me and Christian Fromhertz are going to reveal our 2025 acronyms, the analysts are getting out there giving you their best ideas for 2025. They're back from their holidays. So there is upgrades and downgrades all over the place. I didn't count them, but it looked like to me about 40 upgrades this morning. I also saw 15 downgrades approximately. Lots of reiterations, lots of buy ratings. There's so much analyst action here today. That is really moving individual names.
I mean, and those other stocks that you mentioned, they're not even getting the analyst love, right? They're just
that's off tariff talk.
Yeah, just off the tariff talk. So what would be your top call? What would be your top, make your eyes wide open? Where would you like to go?
So from the analyst ratings here, if I'm just looking what is, one that really jumps out and say, okay, well, here's something that's going to move. There's a couple here. There's a couple sell ratings, and those are always interesting, but I don't want to start with the sell ratings here. We'll start with the other ones. Boeing's interesting because Boeing has been a beaten up laggard stock here. We're getting an upgrade to overweight at Barclays here this morning. It's a bold call, obviously a contrarian call because the stock has been a complete laggard. I love the contrarian calls, just not so much that I may follow them, but more just that's takes guts, where you get a stock going up 5% a day and then you get the upgrade, like literally after the stocks move 40% in a month, and you're like, well, where were you? I love a good contrarian call, and this is one this morning. You had Boeing making almost a triple bottom here in the 170 area from January.
Yep.
Yeah, and now you get the bold call. So does this kickstart Boeing? Christian, what are your thoughts? This is a name we don't talk about a lot. It's obviously a stock that's been in the gutter for a long time, but starting to show a little bit of life. And what I like about the Boeing chart too is we've had lots of bad news, yet the stock continues to shrug off a lot of that bad news. So it's been holding up fairly well in the wake of a lot of bad news. Christian, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's had a lot of, we've continued, this stock continues to have headline risk and incidents and so forth. So, there's been a couple things. I was hearing something about another, like an emergency landing someplace. So that's the risk with Boeing. Does it look compelling down here with, there is a new CEO that's come in. I think like the way that I would play this is bring out in your toolbox, use this perhaps as options versus stock, because stock, there's too much headline risk for me. I feel like if you could define your risk with an option trade, maybe go out a year, something like that, give it some time, because I think Boeing does need time. But overall, it's compelling, here, and probably I would think, again, I can't, no one can predict the future about what if they have any more incidents in their future, but that's what I would be afraid of, considering they've been plagued by that, and that's why I would go with an option trade versus outright stock.
I like Dennis's setup, and we'll keep the technical simple today just because we got so much to cover. But like, if the street's going to run with this, and this is like, yep, they are 100% right, then that 170, there's your base, there's your bottom. That's the level you can lean on. go up, take out the high of the move, retrace some of this pullback here. I like the support there. If you're bullish, I think you just hold the 170 level. But you take this home long, you get an incident overnight, boom, it opens up at 165. A headline stock, bold move though. They got it traded
Yeah.
up in the green here, up 281.
Also, another call that stands out is probably Chewy, CHWY. I forget who upgraded that. You have it in front of you? CHWY upgraded by
Jeffries.
Mizuho. No,
Mizuho?
did they upgrade it too? This one's
thought
Mizuho. It's their top pick. But it could have more than one. I mean, there's so many ratings out there. Raising their price target from 24 to 42, upgrading shares to Chewy to outperform. $42 PT as part of our 2025 industry outlook. I'm not going to read further from the notes just because there's so many stocks to cover here this morning. But it's a bold call. It's a stock that is loved by retail. And when you get the retail, we're going to try to teach a lot on this show. When you get a stock that's very much followed by the retail community, they often have bigger moves than, let's just say, a stock that's not widely followed. Chewy, widely followed by the retail community, had a great day on Friday. Obviously, huge follow through here this morning with the upgrade. Stocks breaking out.
I think, what's the Roaring Kitty high? This had to be a Roaring Kitty move right here. I would just say so. The high of the pre-market, just over 37.50. But let me pull up my trusty data window. If you want to target today, back in June, you peaked at 39.10. That was a Roaring Kitty high. Probably some tweet or something, but it really backed off hard off that level. So keep an eye on the pre-market high, longer term resistance up in here at 39.10. Christian, does this fit on your radar at all? Or
Yeah, absolutely. I think looking at that weekly chart, which is what I think your top
top
you're
right
looking.
is daily and the bottom is the monthly?
Okay, looking at monthly or weekly, I like how it's kind of carving. It's been carving out a bottom, and I like this versus my support levels about 32. So yeah, I think as long as it's above that level, I think you can give Chewy a try. Chew on Chewy.
Chew on some Chewy. Shopify also getting upgraded at Wedbush, the good Canadian company here, has been consolidating for a few days. It's going to break out here above that 110 resistance this morning with this upgrade here. Obviously, major resistance up at 120, but it's an interesting call here. I mean, Shopify's had a great run here. November, $80, obviously up at 112. We got a little bit of maybe early year profit taking here, but now ratings analysts coming out, turning some stocks around.
Wide open area here. You peaked your head over 110, 111.44. You're trading above that. So figure out what to do in this bar here, because after this 111.44, your next daily high doesn't come into 120.10. And boy, oh boy, that's been the highest level this stock has been at since mid 2022.
Continuing on the ratings parade, let's do a couple sell calls here.
Oh, sell.
Yeah, so we got Guggenheim is probably the main bearish analyst here this morning. Guggenheim is downgrading CRM to sell, and it's underweight on their rating, but that's equivalent to sell. And then PANW to underweight as well. So two stocks that are, get a lot of analysts love normally here, getting some analyst hate here this morning with CRM, PANW both getting downgraded. Both these stocks have been showing some weakness here too. December wasn't a great month for PANW, and it really wasn't a great month for CRM either. Started the month up at 365, closed at 332. Huge day for stocks being higher. Both these stocks are lower on these analyst calls.
Boy, it's tough on a day like this, to get super excited about whooping up on something, right?
Yeah,
Because
it is.
the overall market down $1.35. I would just keep it. I mean, you're not even near last week's low yet. You're not even anywhere near Friday's low on this thing. So if you think that, if for CRM, if you think this downgrade has any teeth, then you should be down at Friday's low, 329.27. Resistance, I'll call that at the close. People, hey, I got stuck on the mark there at 332.90. Palo Alto Networks, as you mentioned, that had been consolidating. Once again, you're not near Friday's low. Friday's low, 180.41. You'll use the mark. I mean, you're only 79 cents off the mark there, 183 and a quarter.
We got our analyst here in the background here posting. So the chat's asking, is that you, Joel, posting all this news here under the pre-market prep handle? I don't think it is.
That is me.
Mr. Christian Fromhertz is doing so many things in the background. He's out there posting news for us, giving us market calls. This Christian Fromhertz has been a great addition to this team. So thank you very much, Christian. Obviously, you know, we're a show that likes to talk stocks, but we like to give you the morning news too. That's what pre-market prep has always been about. So we got Christian working that pre-market prep handle here in the chat. So if you're not in the chat, pay attention to the chat because Christian's posting breaking news. I noticed ASTS.
Wait, Dennis, before you go on to that, I had this down to mention. We are working on some new stuff here in pre-market prep, and we want you guys to actually, we got something going out today. But in order to get that, you got to go to premarketprep.com and you got to just sign up for our alerts, and you will be finding out what's going on. We got some exciting things coming up here in the month of January. In order to get that, you need to go to premarketprep.com. You need to go to the bottom of the page. You need to put your email in, and you look at your inbox before the open. And we got a little surprise coming for you today. Continue with the analyst parade.
Analyst parade. So we did a couple downgrades. Palantir is one, and this is an interesting call because I don't remember the last time we got a bearish call on Palantir here. But Morgan Stanley is assuming Palantir at underweight. What does that mean usually when you assume? It usually means the old analyst that covered this stopped covering it, and then the new analyst came in and not liking it. So here's the story. Sanjit Singh from Morgan Stanley, assuming coverage of Palantir with an underweight price target, $60. Analyst comments, inflection and growth, and our positively rise assessment of Palantir's positioning. Oh, it's so long. I'm trying to just go through it here. It looks like to me like a valuation call here. I'm just kind of summing it up here for you. It looks like valuation. They're talking about free cash flow margins, talking about a number of things. So maybe they feel like this is overdone a little bit. But anyways, Palantir not participating in the rally this morning. If you're wondering why, you can thank Morgan Stanley for that with the underweight rating.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy. What a run in this thing. I mean, if you've had your targets and you've hit your targets in here and you haven't taken it, then I don't know what to tell you because this has just been an unbelievable run. Looking at this monthly chart, let's just use, do we have the old-time closing high? Boy, that's way up there at 82.38. Closed right near the high of the session, and it also right near a whole number. So, you know, maybe the big boys were trying to parcel out over $80 here. At the end of last year. So I would say longer term, there's a level you've gone through 50 like butter. You went through 60 like butter. You stalled at 70 a little bit. Let's see if 80. Let's see if 80 is going to be something that shows up on that monthly chart and gives you some major resistance. But bold move there with the moving it to a sell. So this one I like a little bit better than the CRM just because it's just they both have had major runs. But Palantir trading in the red, bucking the trend here in the overall market.
So many upgrades and downgrades to talk about here. So I think I'm just going to give you the list here fast. If you want to go into details on some of these, you can. Lyft is upgraded at Benchmark. That's a big call from Benchmark here. It's trading up this morning. But also, just for news factors, Uber came out with a buyback this morning. So it's not a rating. If you're looking at Uber trading up 4.5%, it's due to a buyback. Christian, Joel, stop me anywhere if you see some technical.
I just want to say that this,
I want to fly through these eventually.
This Uber buyback, this is like an extra special accelerated repurchase. That, I know, Dennis, you get mad when I say that they're out there buying them at the market right now, but an accelerated buyback. So you got a big pop off that. Hit 69. I'm always a little leery of these kind of, because they are not buying it back immediately. So keep an eye on that pre-market high, 69.10 for Uber. Dennis, I know you're a little bit bearish on this one, because of
I think it's the anti-Tesla call. So yeah. I think it's a nice pop-up. I think you get near 70 at this point in time. I think, I'd be more of a seller than a buyer, but I've been bearish Uber for a while. They're saying that email is not working, so we will get that fixed. Folks, hold your signups here till tomorrow. We've had literally half the chat is coming and saying, we just tried to sign up and it's not working. So we'll get Josh on that to fix that. Josh is our tech guy in the background here and figure out what went wrong here. But apparently our email signups on premarketprep.com is not working. So we will get that fixed for you. We apologize for that.
Huh, it just worked for me. Make sure you click the button that
There's
says
10 people that just said it didn't work. So I guess that 10 people aren't all wrong. So okay, we'll get that fixed.
All right, it worked for Gabe, so there's 2 out of 10. It worked for Gabe, so
okay, it worked for a few people.
Maybe
try a couple times. A couple people are working here. So some people it's working for, some people it's not. Not sure why that is. We'll try to figure that out. If it's not working, let us know. Robert says no, NL says yes. So we're trying to figure stuff out. Again, remember, people who are, mocking us to a certain extent, that me and Joel have been market commentators and traders for a long time. We're trying to now all of a sudden, obviously with Christian here, run a business here, and we're still learning as we go as well. So stick with us, folks. We're good at the market commentary. We're not so good at the technical stuff in the background, but we'll figure it out.
Okay, let's you know what, did we finish? Are we done with the analyst ratings here?
Yeah, well, I can go through a few ones. So we did benchmark at left. I can just list some of them up. Mizuho upgrading TSCO, UBS upgrading ADC. We already did the Shopify one. Cisco Melius, I don't know who they are. I've heard of them, but I don't follow that closely. It's upgrading Cisco to buy. Cardinal Health getting upgraded CAH at B of A. Jefferies upgrading American Airlines to buy. These are all big calls. Guggenheim upgrading MongoDB to buy. Holy, there's just so many. Like, I don't even know where to go. Any of those you want to talk about here? MongoDB is an interesting one we haven't talked about for a while. And Guggenheim is upgrading that one to buy. Ooh. And it's interesting because it's a contrarian call, because this stock absolutely got crushed in December. It was $370. And started obviously at the highs, like a week into December, and then closed December down at 246. So you're talking about a stock that fell 35% in December. So it was just an awful month for it. Is this the turnaround story here? I don't know if this is a Christian Fromhertz chart.
Yeah, MongoDB looks okay to me. I think they had good earnings. They didn't have a great reaction to earnings. So, I think it's kind of carving out a bottom. So I'm okay with it.
It's trading up a lot here, up at the highs of the pre-market session, which is 255.80, 255. Yep, 255.80 is the pre-market high. It's just hard to call top in here, right? With the momentum in the market here. So see where you settle out. See if you can find a daily level that coincides with something. And actually, just as I said that, I looked at the December 19th high that comes in at 255.90. After that, green skies ahead. Your next daily high comes in at your December 18th high at 265.13. So wide open. And if you want to get more bullish on this thing and do a major retracement, I'm not even talking from the all-time high, but from that December high, you got a long way. That was a 120-point move. If you're super bullish this thing, get back half of that move. 300, 310, but right now getting a boost, nice boost in the pre-market on pretty decent volume.
Baird upgrading the Bros, BROS. So Money Mitch, that was always one of his picks there. Bros has been a stock, man. You want to talk about a quiet mover here since November. Coffee shop, Dutch Bros, $35 to $58 here now in the pre-market. It's trading up 3.8% as Baird comes out. Feels a little late to the party, but they come out with an upgrade, raising their price target from $60 to $70 here. Big move here. BROS, been an unbelievable move. You think about all the struggles that Starbucks has had. Bros not having those struggles, at least not lately.
Yeah, look at Starbucks starting to get it worked its way into the gap area, but I guess Brian Nickel not figuring out how to take care of those people that order these drinks that take like 11 minutes to make. But this is a big move for Bros. From what I can see, it had an outside move, a big average daily move a couple days ago. You're right back above yesterday's high, which was 58.10. So hold on to 58. Maybe you go up and test the next monthly high Next monthly high comes in. Ooh, got a little confluence here. 58.69. That's where you peaked in April of 22. So if that was if you were waiting for your April 22 target, you could get it today thanks to the upgrade.
I'm going to leave the ratings here for a few minutes because there's just so many. Again, if you want to talk any specific stocks, let us know here. Christian and I will be revealing our acronyms, our trading acronyms for 2025 later in the show right now. So we'll do a little tease there again for you. I want to talk Fubo. This is maybe your big mover of the day. It's a stock that has been left for dead at the end of the year. But we talk about the calendar turn, where 2025 laggards can turn around. Well, holy crap. This closed out the year at $1.26, showed life for the first couple days of January, which we often see. Those beaten down stocks that are getting tax loss selling, closed on its low pretty much for the year, turn around here big time as they are announcing a deal, it looks like, with Disney. So Fubo Disney near a deal to merge Hulu and Live into Fubo. So this is coming from Bloomberg. Disney said a near deal to merge Hulu and Live into Fubo. So boom, Fubo up 60% on this. Short's getting squeezed.
Wow, what a move in this one. Mentioned with the big company, I mean, it's hard to find resistance in it. You just did get a spike here in Fubo. You got to 249. That's your pre-market high, up 61%. So if you're buying this on the hop, man, you want to see take out the pre-market high, get a bid. Wow, 28 million shares have traded here. You just got to be a little bit cautious. If the people that got the memo, I'm not saying anything underhanded here, but the stock goes from 120 to 144.
That's a lot of January effect in there, though, Joel.
Yeah, you're right.
You see stocks like Walgreens, we talked about that. Even if we almost should go into a segment here because I've been pitching this January effect here potentially coming. And if you just want to look at the 2024 laggards here, we have actually seen, we saw them pop initially in the first 10 minutes of the first day of January, and then they kind of leaked a little bit with that overall heavy sell-off day that we had. But in the last little bit here, and I got the list, I had the list here, yeah. So, you just start going through them. WBA showing life. Intel starting to show some life. I'm long Intel, we know that. Moderna has had a good couple of days, starting to show some life here. Those were were the top three losers in the S&P of 2024. CE still showing no life. Celanese there. ENPH starting to show a little bit of life here. The dollar stores, DLTR, had a rough day on Friday, DLTR, but then starting to show a little bit of life here this morning. But you can see CVS is another one. You can start to see that there is a little bit of life here in some of these laggards. Does that continue? I mean, that's the big question.
CVS chart here looks interesting just for the fact that you've consolidated for a long time between 45 and 44 and 46. So, man, you hold a 46 bid here. Boom, you got some nice upside. And where's that activist? Didn't we have an activist in? Oh, that activist was up here. Remember that back in October? Oh, what a great things we're going to do for the company. So I wonder if they were doubling down, tripling down, whatever. But this one, I mean, a lot of room on the upside here if you could hold 46.
Should we go to the big mover of the day, Christian? It's NVIDIA again. And I mean, we can talk about 2024 laggards running. Well, this was a 2024 winner, and it is running. And now you're on the third day here, and this stock is just straight up, and it looks like it's the 150 is major resistance there. It looks like it wants to go and kiss it here today. But I mean, the AI story, for one, is not going away. The valuation is stretched on this thing, but it's been stretched for a while. But I mean, hard to argue with the chart here. NVIDIA is showing a lot of life. What are your thoughts, Christian? Oh, he's on mute. He's on mute.
I know. I want to know what happened.
I think he tried to chime in a minute ago there, and he's on mute. We should have
yeah.
There
So NVIDIA, I think you've got the CES today. I think Jensen speaks at. I think he might be speaking a couple times today, but I think 6:30 is what I saw earlier for when he's supposed to speak. So NVIDIA loves Catalyst, loves when Jensen's going to speak, and then you also had this headline out on Friday and I'm trying to get the let's see if I can get the number for you. But they
Sure.
mentioned that Microsoft to spend $80 billion on AI data centers this year. That was the catalyst on Friday in the afternoon that kind of got this, or one of the catalysts, I should say, because you got a couple things. I think definitely Jensen speaking today got people interested in the stock, and that took off. And then you've kind of have, a double or triple thing going on here with Microsoft saying that they're going to spend more. I believe that ups the estimate for data centers, and it kind of trickles down. Like, so even though, like, NVIDIA, it doesn't have to be in data centers, of course, but it just means that AI theme is here to stay for now. If they're going to continue, if they're going to spend this much on data centers, and it really got a lot of the AI stocks going on Friday.
Yeah.
And again, to Christian's point, this is, the story is just not going away. Its brother-in-law, AMD, which we'll talk about in a bit, is getting a big pop too here this morning. A lot of bullish commentary even from analysts here this morning there as well. But what are your thoughts, NVIDIA? You're going to chime in on some technicals, maybe, Joel?
I mean, it's just right back up to this 150 area, and
Yeah.
it's had a hard. So I think if you need a sustained breakout, that's when you get your 150 bid. You got that pop to 152.89. I know that was on earnings day, and then it just collapsed. But man, 8 million shares up 382, trading at the highs of the pre-market session. I just don't have anything really coinciding with the price action here. So maybe keep an eye on that psychological 150 level. Just keep in mind that this thing kissed 135, 134.63 to start the year. So it's already a $15 move. That's a big move. Let's see if you find any profit takers here in NVIDIA. AVGO, that it's been strong, had a little
Oh, yeah.
pullback, and then that's right back up. A little bit of consolidation here between what is that 230 and 240.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that.
Joel, if you could bring up
Good eye.
just the whole group too, SMH, which the semis had a good performance last week, and it's actually like one of the few it's a sector that kind of got going a little bit. I mean, if you go back to a couple days ago where the market was kind of looking for a little bit of direction after the S&P down 5 days in a row. Semis really actually did pretty well, and you can kind of see this range. I think it's going to be very interesting. I'm looking at that chart. I also like the equally weighted semiconductor ETF. That's XSD, which is it kind of just shows that
There's that NVIDIA weighting on that.
Yeah, and it just means to me that the group is strong because that's actually already leaning to the upside, whereas the market cap weighted ETF is still kind of in a range.
Yeah, I looked at that Sox the other day. I think someone wait, was it the Sox, the one that you mentioned, or what was the? Oh no, the SMH. I mean, that's just a big area. You've just been coiling here between 240 and just over 260. So you still got some room in there. But if you want a major breakout here, let's clear this 262 area.
The last piece, I knew that there was one other news story that was out, and that's Foxconn. So again, we've mentioned that there's a lot of news out, a lot of analyst ratings, but yeah, you had three things to kind of go with NVIDIA. You had the Microsoft story and data centers. You have Jensen speaking at the CES conference today, which the keynote speech today is 6:30, and then the third one was Foxconn coming out, also helping Apple, saying that that they're seeing good demand. So again, you had like a trifecta of things to watch for both semis and NVIDIA.
Yeah, I said they were talking about on 60 Minutes yesterday too. I did not know that. So 60 Minutes can be a driver as well. So man, lots of positive news coming out of NVIDIA here, which is the driver this morning. Just remember that 150 Joel's talking about is a big number though. So if you're in it, just be careful. That number, you could get a little bit of resistance there.
Did Foxconn have some earnings today, or was just that other related news? I thought I saw something on that on earnings, but maybe not. What's the symbol on?
I don't think that's traded, Foxconn.
No, well, then they wouldn't have earnings.
I don't know who owns Foxconn. That's a good question, actually.
Taiwanese multinational electronics contract manufacturer. Okay.
Well, we're talking Foxconn, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Guest
Yeah.
time.
Okay. All right. We got a special guest coming on here, and let me get to it. And right now, we'll do an intro, and we're gonna bring Will Gray to the stage, and he's the CEO of a stock that we don't talk about much, and it's gonna be related to AI a little bit. So, folks, hold on here, and we'll do our intro. All right, we're bringing on Will Gray, Chairman and CEO of New Era Helium Inc. Will, how you doing? How's the new year? Are you getting off on the right foot?
So far, so well. I mean, you guys got me up early this morning out here on the West Coast. That's a good thing.
Oh, gosh.
So just it's great. So we got to ring the bell on Thursday. So to
Oh,
open,
awesome.
yeah, we got to open the 2025 trading session on NASDAQ. So pretty exciting.
All right, so we're talking about themes, right? We're talking about AI. We're also trying to find some stocks that didn't perform so well in 2024. Some of those were the energy stocks, right?
Right.
And so you're looking, your company, NEHC, a new issue out here. You're looking for opportunities in energy stocks in the new year. So how does your company fit into the picture?
Well, it's interesting. We're a little bit different in that we produce helium, and so from the energy perspective, I'm born and raised in the Permian Basin. So West Texas, southeast New Mexico, one of the largest oil fields in the world. And what's interesting, you guys start talking about AI data centers and power. That's really what this story is going to be about, in my personal opinion. And so what's interesting was, years ago we acquired these assets. They have helium, but essentially 95% of the world's helium is associated with natural gas. So the thing is, hey, you have this great, multiple extreme revenue streams, not just from helium, but from nat gas, from NGLs. So here there's a glut of natural gas from the Permian. So how do you essentially take that revenue stream and just make the most of it? So one thing that we're focused on as an energy company is power gen. That's specifically for the AI side. So when you look at kind of our company, the joke is we're kind of all things AI, because obviously you can't have semiconductors without helium. That's your number one end use application. So you want your AI chips, well, you got to have your helium. Well,
Wow.
you want your data centers, well, you better have some power. And so kind of what we're focused on is, again, across the spectrum, not just from the creation of the semiconductors, but also towards the latter, the end of on the power gen. And so I think, from an energy side, that's where this story is headed. The Permian Basin, I mean, everyone wants cheap power behind the grid. Can you create what they call net zero power? So capture your CO2, which the Permian Basin is nothing but the largest CO2, disposal place in the world. So really, that's kind of the fun story about what's going on right now. West Texas is literally just kind of getting going on the creation of data centers.
All right, so New Helium is revolutionizing the helium industry. How so, and who are your competitors?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say we're revolutionizing. I would say we're the first one to market that has what they call proved reserve. So there's a number of other companies out there that trade on other exchanges, foreign exchanges, TSX, um, LSE, whatnot. But we're the first one on a major U.S. exchange other than Exxon that has proved reserves. So you're looking at, we look at exploitation as opposed to exploration. But also one thing, when you look at the helium upstream market, not many people know about this. It's the most fragmented market you've ever seen. So really what our thesis was from our stakeholders, from our board, was to essentially create this platform to consolidate. And that's really what we intend to do. So that's how we really kind of differentiate between ourselves and our competitors.
All right, other industrial applications for helium besides, I mean, we all know about the data centers and the need for energy on that. That's given a boost to a lot of stocks, but are there any other industrial applications for helium?
Well, absolutely. So originally, medical, MRIs was your number one. But obviously semiconductors has overtaken MRIs. And then of course aerospace. Uh, Aerospace, with a lot of the I guess, my goodness, a lot of the launches from SpaceX, from NASA, from URL, those are driving demand as well. So these growth drivers, this is a very, very limited commodity. There, you don't know how to trade it. No one knows what price it is. It trades in a spot market. And so obviously, as kind of the reshoring of the semiconductors occur here in the US, domestic growth is going to expand exponentially.
So, are you dealing directly with these companies, or is there a conduit between it? You don't have to reveal like who your customers are, but just talk about your the flow of helium, the customer base, and how you would understand it.
No, that's a great point. So what we're typically, there's a middleman, and they're kind of like, we call it the oligopoly. There's about 5 industrial gas companies, Air Products, Linde, Matheson, those sort of entities, multi-billion dollar, international corporations that essentially provide, they're the conduit from groups like ourselves that provide what they call the upstream energy, the upstream helium. And then, of course, whether we liquefy it or sell it as gaseous helium, and then the majors will then do take or pay contracts with companies such as New Era Helium to get to the end user, to the NVIDIAs, to the Taiwan Semiconductors, to GE Medical.
I got a question here. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Christian.
I was just going to ask you a question too.
Yeah.
Well, regarding, and I don't mean to bring up politics, but it is kind of interesting when a new administration and so forth. How do you view that in terms of your business over the next couple of years? Clean energy stocks, I've actually seen as the year has gotten started, there's been a nice little move up in some of the clean energy stocks. I don't know if you would put yourself in that category of clean energy, or what your viewpoint is on if the new administration will be a positive or negative, or it doesn't matter for you.
No, I think it will be. I mean, again, looking back at the Permian Basin, all things energy related, whether it's oil, natural gas, NGLs, I think, you're looking at having operated these sort of wells for the past 20 years. You come into different administrations, whether it's the EPA, whether it's state regulators, better understanding flare mitigation, understanding how do you essentially be a more responsible operator. Because at the end of the day, methane is exponentially more harmful as a greenhouse gas than CO2. So one thing, Christian, to your point, is we focus on producing responsibly sourced gas. So essentially, monitoring for fugitive methane emissions. So that is one aspect that we do. I don't think the new administration is going to put a big, focus on that. But ultimately, we 4 years down the road, we don't know. So I think, what we tend to look at is, okay, if you can create electricity behind the meter power, not necessarily do you have to capture the CO2, but I would think that you'd want to, because when you start looking at the economics associated with that to create net zero power, yes, it makes a lot of sense, because then you can take that captured CO2. And here's what's funny. Most people don't even realize there's a CO2 shortage in this country. So, you're like, okay, so you can take the CO2, you could sell it for food and beverage grade CO2. You could sell it to oil and gas operators for what they call enhanced oil recovery of low carbon oil. I mean, there's a multitude of different things that you can do without trying to get too many subsidies, I guess, is at the end of the day.
Thank you.
What about this processing facility that's currently under construction? Can you talk about that a bit, like when that is set to be done and how that's going to improve your efficiency?
Yeah. So right now, when you look at our field, it's, there's a great slide that we have within our presentation about, vertical integration leads to greater monetization. So I think, at the end of the day, when we acquired these assets around 4 years ago, ultimately we own the wells and have the acreage, about 137,000 acres. But our midstream operator pretty much takes those molecules, and they essentially, we're not paid on our helium per se. So that's why we moved to doing what we're doing, so we can control our own destiny and essentially just increase, the amount of revenue that we're seeing both on, the natural gas and of course helium and NGLs. But the plant's about 30% complete. We've put quite a bit of millions of dollars towards that plant. And so it's come along nicely.
All right, Tom, moving forward, give us where you guys going to be at a year? Where you going to be at 5 years? Where are you going to be at 10 years?
Yeah, that is actually a great question. One of my board members asked me that the other day. He's actually the chair of ERCOT in Texas, and he's like, okay, so that's what I have to tell my fellow board. I think within the next couple of years, we'll control our own destiny in the field. We'll have, I would say, a single digit market share of the helium market, domestic helium market. More importantly, I think we're going to be able, I would say, in the next 2 to 5 years, Joel. I mean, I think we're looking at probably being able to have our 250 megawatt facility up for our AI data center for our joint venture with Sharon AI. So really kind of understanding so we can maximize the various revenue streams for the company. Now, 10 years, I mean, I truly think that our goal is to acquire as much natural gas with helium across the U.S. as possible. And essentially, the goal would be, I'd love to get to a gigawatt of energy in West Texas. I think that's a lofty goal, but it's something that can get done.
Okay, let's a little bit more of a broad question here for you. And for investing, right? Our show is about not only short-term investing but long-term investing. What are some of the key factors investors should consider to make informed decisions when they're choosing energy stocks and to make sure that they align with their long-term investment goals?
That's a great question. I mean, again, having being born and raised in West Texas, you always have to be careful that you don't you spend your capital. You have to look at your leverage, what you're taking on. Um, a lot of EMP companies that I follow have really kind of had really very strong discipline in their cash flow management, meaning they're drilling out of free cash flow. They're not taking on additional leverage to do that. So I think, as an investor looking at energy stocks, what makes sense, oil is going to be needed. I do think my personal opinion is that I think some of the natural gas stocks are going to take some nice leaps and bounds here over the next 12 months. I think, it's the new administration is really going to be pushing LNG, and we can get that going, get that to our partners, in Europe. That's going to be, in my opinion, a big driver. Like, what are some of the catalysts? I think oil is going to maybe hover around between 65 to 75, but nat gas, I think, be a big mover.
All right. Will Gray, Chairman and CEO of New Era Helium NEHC, joining us here on Pre-Market Prop. And we'll keep an eye on this one, Will. Thanks for getting up bright and early. And
Yeah.
we'll have you back again soon. Thank you
All right.
very
Happy
much.
New Year, gentlemen. All right. Take care.
All right.
Thanks, Will.
So, Dennis, you always talk about like when some news hits and then it's kind of out there and then the
Yeah.
news hits again.
Yeah. This
Fubo.
happened. So Bloomberg, obviously breaking the news a couple hours ago, Fubo and Disney, Hulu, and Live TV were going to combine. We got the official press release at 8:45, and the bots can't help themselves. We get the official PR. They popped it again. So Fubo was trading up around 240. It's now 307. It is your big mover of the day. It's up 114% here right now. So just a huge move. I think there's some short interest on this puppy here too. But I mean, leaders to laggards. Laggards to leaders. Holy cow, this laggards to leaders theme for Fubo, this one's working.
Yeah, you can't stand. I mean, like
up 128% now.
What am I going to do? I mean, it's going to be like above my.
Algo's gone wild.
I'm going to need a new monitor here. With the way this thing's going,
This going to trade the most volume out of any stock here today. I'll predict on the New York stock or on any exchange here. It's traded 42 million shares here right now. It's going up to 139% now. So algos, we know. When they grab, they go wild here. Wow, this is just a move here. Christian Fromhertz, you getting down dirty, Fubo?
No, but I mean, I think also what you're seeing is just a lot of these stocks. If there is a news or catalyst, like they're really going right now.
Yeah.
I just kind of feel the animal spirits. I wanted to just touch upon another story too. There's a stock out there, and we saw this late. I think it was the middle of the day on Friday, which was a stock by the name of Oh, I just lost it. Hold on 1 second. CRNC. CRNC. Right. So this is what's been going on with. Also, I remember other stocks used to act this way. Like when there was a small company that had a deal, like an announcement with Amazon, like it would take off, or Apple or something like that. Now it's Nvidia. When you have a deal or some type of contract with Nvidia, your stock is really going. The stock went from like $9 to 26. So you've got to, again, I'll use the term animal spirits right now in stocks, but there's another stock this morning, ARBE, which I would keep on your radar because this stock is another one, just $2. It announces that they've got some type of a partnership deal. This could kind of, these make or break these small cap stocks. And there's a lot of momentum in this stuff right now. I see this stock moving above 460, which is an interesting level to watch. Next resistance I see is around 690. So I would, just keep in mind some of these names can really run on these little announcements. And there's just, they can run for a couple days. So, I think that's interesting. There was a stock that's in the news this morning too, which is Serve, which this was, happened like probably about a few months ago.
I remember this one.
Yeah, it was actually August. And take a look at that chart. Went from $4 up to 20. So, these things, again, complete story stocks, as I know Dennis likes to use that term, but really, keep your eye on some of these names.
And why does this happen? And I can explain it just quickly, like why, these stocks go boom, they have a headline with NVIDIA. It's all algorithmic news trading. So where they are literally algorithms, high frequency traders, whatever you want to call them, looking and just basically scanning press releases. And when you see something with collaborates with NVIDIA, like we saw on ARBE today, they just start grabbing offers. So, and then that gets the retail community going too. But, a lot of people mistakenly think, okay, yeah, this is all retail traders going in this. This starts with algos, and I think retail trading follows. But it all starts with the algos. ARB probably not on anybody's radar before today. And all of a sudden, maybe it was because it had a move on Friday. That's interesting in itself. But, it gets the headline here this morning. ARBE collaborates with NVIDIA to enhance radar-based free space mapping and AI-driven capabilities. And, a lot of these companies know when they release a headline, you say collaborates with NVIDIA, it's probably going to pop the stock. So, big move here. Again, very interesting when you see a stock go from 210 to 277 on Friday before this news obviously came out here this morning because I didn't see any headlines on Friday. But big move here. ARB is another one. It's hard to some people just come in and say, well, look, this is irrational. Stock should be up 86%. Maybe they say it's irrational. The FUBO is trading up 147% here now. Very hard to short a hot story. I short stocks all the time. This is not what I'm looking for when I'm shorting stocks. This is not at all what I'm looking for. I always talk about shorting stocks. Kick them when they're down. This is the opposite. This is like a headline that's all of a sudden got everybody excited. Some of these stocks go up 100%, go up 200% or 300%. It's very difficult to tell where the party stops. So, that's just what I want to warn on some of these issues. Maybe even look in the FUBO when it's up 100% just a few minutes ago. Well, it's up 150% here now. So it's hard to fade when that buzz gets going and the algos get all antsy in their pantsy and the retail traders get that syrup in them. The stocks just can go a lot farther than you think, than you think rationally. So a lot of times I just stay away from this stuff. It's just not my cup of tea. But people love this stuff. If you can be early in the headlines, it can work. We were talking about FUBO this morning at 2:30. Probably wasn't a bad idea. And then you get the official press release and now it's gone.
Also, there'll just be something like FUBO, today. If you, also look at it from the perspective of if you're long, right? It has the momentum. Where do you want to? You never had any idea that it'd be up 160% today. It will give you some price action, and then it will give you a pause, right? And maybe a little bit of consolidation, and then maybe a couple days where the volume reigns. But right now, if you're short, you don't know what the heck you're doing in this thing. I just looked at 382. I was going to throw that level out there because 382 was your high a little over a year. A little over a year ago in December of 23. So there's a target for you right now. We just hit it, but you'll get a pause. You'll get a pause in the action. All right, 7 minutes left here. I don't think we're going to have time to do both of your trading acronyms today here. Dennis, do you have enough time?
We're going to have time to do both. We've said we're going to do them. We're going to do them. So I'll jump in. Do you want to jump, Christian, or you want me to go?
Go. You go first, and then I'll go and I'll share my screen.
Okay, so I struggled with this acronym. One, because I'm going to say it again. I don't think this is going to be the kind of year that, stocks, and it's obviously looks like today it's going to be that kind of year, but I think it's going to be the kind of year of chop. I think you're going to have a lot of headlines. I think you're going to have, ups and downs. I think you're going to have opportunities to buy the dip and sell the rip, which we love doing. I actually wanted to use the acronym CHOP, but I was like, I couldn't come up with any stocks for that, CHOP. I was like, H is tough. O is tough. P, I was like, well, I'm not going Palantir or anything like that. I'm staying away from that. So I didn't use CHOP, but I did come up with an acronym that is like CHOP, and it is called FADE, FADE. So that is going to be my acronym for the year, is FADE. And it's probably going to be my theme, where when you get up 10, 15, 20% in a stock, it's probably prudent to maybe book those gains. I don't think this is going to be, I'm not talking FUBO here, obviously, but when you have your NVIDIA move here, like this morning, where it's moved up like 7-8% here in a couple of days. I think it's going to be the year where you're going to be happy if you look at resistance and book some gains, as opposed to just, no, I'm sitting back, my stock's going to go up 1,000% this year, and it's just going to be. I don't think it's going to be that type of year. So that's why I went with the acronym FADE, and the F in FADE is indeed fade trade. I'm going to be playing it more where it's going to be a more mean reversion year, I believe, where we're going to have a lot of chop, some sideways action, but I don't see us going up 25% this year. I don't see us going down 25% this year. I see this kind of as a digestion year, where we're going to have some big moves up, big moves down. There's going to be cool stories. There's going to be cool themes. There's going to be all that stuff. But I think there's going to be a lot of chop. And that's why in a choppy markets, the fade trade comes in. So that's my acronym. That is the F in fade. You guys probably can guess the A in fade. Multiple people obviously coming out, and it would have been good if it was FUBO. They were joking. The F should have been FUBO. Yeah, that would have been good, but it wasn't. The A is AMD. And I think it's going to be a year where Lisa Su starts to figure it out, and AMD has a turnaround story here. It's been obviously, a laggard here compared to NVIDIA for a long time. Started the year really well in 2024 and didn't end that well. And it was the A in my Nassau trade from last year. Started, like I said, started the year really well, but ended really weakly. I have bought more AMD. I've been talking about that. I've been adding to it in the 120s here. I do think AMD is going to have a year. It's having a pretty good day here today. I'm not sure I'm chasing it up 3% here today, but I think on pullbacks here, I think AMD is going to start to show some life. Also, the valuation is starting to get down to where it's fairly reasonable at 27 times forward earnings. I think AMD figures it out, and I'm betting on Lisa Su. I always talk about betting on people you believe in. Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Jensen Huang. I think Lisa Su is not Jensen Huang, but I think she's going to figure it out. So I'm betting on Lisa Su, and I'm long AMD. The D in my fade trade is Dell. And I think Michael Dell is going to figure it out here too. I think the valuation is okay. I've been long Dell for a while. Traded a couple of times, trading it pretty well. Have bought more recently in the 120, so I'm down slightly in it here. But DELL, I think, is going to be data centers, AI. I think the story is still here, and I don't think the valuation is crazy. So that's the D in my fade trade. And then the E, nobody is ever going to guess the E. And I actually, if I'm looking at this fade trade, the most thing I'm convicted on is AMD. That's the one I'm most convicted on. I do not own the E in my fade trade, but I've been thinking about buying it for a while. And it's, you want to guess it, Christian?
Well, I got two guesses.
Okay.
EQT.
I thought about EQT.
Okay.
I did think about EQT, but it's just kind of run. I actually kind of like the EQT story. So I did think about that one because I was looking for an E for fade. And I was looking through all the E stocks. And I thought about EQT, but I didn't go with it. And what was the other one?
And the chat is saying ENPH, which is a very good guess.
You know what? The laggards to leaders would fit the bill on that one. I just can't get behind the clean energy with Trump coming in. So if Trump wasn't coming in, I might get behind the ENPH story, but I'm still scared of the clean energy story because we do have Trump coming in, and I don't think he helps that. So that's why I stayed away from ENPH. It's a stock that nobody is going to guess here. And it's a stock that I haven't talked about in a long time, but it's one of those darlings from 2020 and 2021. So I'm dropping a couple hints. One of those darlings from 2021, and we're going to go over time, so don't worry. We're going to have time for Christian here today. But one of those darlings that went from $50 to $300 in 2020 and 2021. And then it's been completely forgotten. And it's been just consolidating here down near $50 for a very long time. And I think this could actually have a turnaround story. The valuation has gotten down to a very reasonable level. And I think it's a company that's still trying to find their way, but they're going to eventually find their way. And Mohammed is actually the first person in the chat. Zenith is getting it now here as well. It's Etsy. I'm going with Etsy with the E, and I'm going with the Etsy turnaround story here. So
Yeah.
the stock, again, that has had a rough go of it, but I feel like this consolidation down here in Etsy, down near the $50 level, is kind of attractive. And I'm not long the stock yet, but I've been thinking about buying it for a while, and I kind of like it near 50. And again, the valuation is not crazy. You always think of Etsy, oh, this company doesn't even make money. That's not the case anymore. You know, it was once trading 100 or 150 times earnings back at the end of 2021. This stock on a forward basis is actually trading only 14 times forward earnings projections here. 27 times current earnings, 14 times forward earnings. I think it's a stock that can find its way. It's not exactly a value stock, but it's a stock that's lost its way, and I think they can maybe turn around. So I went with Etsy on my E. So my stocks again: fade trade for the F, AMD on the A, Dell on the D, and Etsy on the E. That's my acronym for the year. So it's not as sexy as NASA was, but it's more of a year where I think there's going to be some chop. And I'm looking for some stocks that I think, you know, fit a little bit of growth story with a little bit of value.
So there's no F. F is for the fade.
The F is for the fade, yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't putting Ford. I wish I would have put Fubo. I did not put Fubo. And
There
again,
it is.
I'm not buying Fubo up 175% here this morning either. Although, you know, who knows where these, you know, it's a big story. It's a big deal for them. You know, they get a deal with Disney. It's huge. Christian Fromhertz, you're up.
All right, I'm up. All right, let me bring my charts up. So I've got the way that I'm doing this is I think this is like an interesting way to look at it too. Is I have an acronym to go ETF, and I have an acronym
Wow.
to also go with single stocks, which are the same theme. So
Ooh.
my acronym is Quasi. QASI. I'll see if you guys, which is tough when you got a Q in there, but it's quantum stocks. I think that this,
Wow.
you know, and first of all, so I'm a trend trader, so I'm going to stick with trends until they last. And I don't think that the quantum theme is going to go away. I think it's going to take a while for it to really kind of come to revenues, because it's the quantum computing thing. Like, it's going to be a while before this actually like hits the ground in terms of them like making money and so forth. But I think it's a very strong theme out there. You could play that versus the QTUM ETF. The A, I actually have.
So you're just going with quantum stocks altogether for the Q.
Yes. So this is the first. I have two quick acronyms, so I'll try to go through this very, very
Sure.
quickly.
We got time. We got time.
The also aerospace. So I think aerospace, you've got drones now in the mix. Here's the XAR ETF, right? So again, you have to just use the aerospace, even though the ETF has an X on it. But I think that this also is a theme that is going to continue. So this is very strong. I see it's just starting to kind of move up again after it's been consolidating a little bit. So smaller aviation companies and drone type names. So that's the A. And I have one, and also I have alternative energy. So it's actually two A's in this, right? So alternative energy is also, which I'm going to skip alternative energy. I'll talk about that with a single stock play, but I also like alternative energy in here. The S in this is the semis, right? And I think that semis are starting to look attractive. I really like that they've basically gone nowhere for the last for the last like 5 months or so. I don't think that the semis theme is going to go away. I think it did need to consolidate. Looking at this chart here, it's just a big consolidation, pattern after the SMH ETF was one of the best ETFs of 2024, but it made all the gains in the first half of the year. So if you've been patient, like, I think you might start to see this lean higher. I do prefer the XSD ETF to it. You could see that it's breaking a little bit higher. So that's the S. The I is a bit more in the weeds. So if anybody will guess that, it's actually, and I'll go quickly because I know
we got lots of time. We're
okay.
Gonna go here today.
So, but Bitcoin, and I think that this also kind of stays too, and that's IBIT. So the I in the quasi QAASI. The I is going to be Bitcoin. And I think that cryptos are going to kind of stay popular for the next year. I don't see the crypto trade falling apart. I think it stays with it, and
I'm with you.
IBIT is an easy way to go through it. All right. So all those themes, right? So the acronym that I have for stocks, chair, CHAIR.
Oh, nice.
So I'm going to start with the C. It kind of goes to the alternative energies that I mentioned, and I think that alternative energy and power stocks is really what I'm focusing on. It's Constellation Energy, and remember, this stock made a big gap up, but again, it's been consolidating. It's not on the
Yeah.
highs, so I think that this trend, when we look at the weekly chart, I think that this is going to continue. Like, if you believe in semis and you believe in quantum, and that there's kind of this tech revolution that's happening, I think that you're going to need power. And I think from different areas, and CEG is one of those names. I got long this name. I talked about it last week, but I think that the theme is in place for a long time. H kind of is changing gears here, but this is Robinhood, right? Here's the
Oh,
weekly
I
chart
love Robinhood
in
too.
Robinhood. And I think like this is also I think a theme that's going to stay for the year. It's based obviously for a long time. I love these base patterns break out, and it's been consolidating. So that's the H in share. Stay. What do I have for what's my A for this?
Oh,
Broadcom, right? So Broadcom, I mentioned
AVGO.
semis, right? So Broadcom, AVGO. Again, big move. It probably needs to consolidate a little bit, so that's why it's 1 year trade. But that's the A in share. And then going back to quantum. Now, again, I think I would rather play this.
I can guess this one.
Yep.
IONQ.
IONQ. Yeah, and again, this is a very risky name. It's gone up from it's gone from nowheresville, from like $8 all the way up to 46. It's up a lot. I would rather play this theme with the ETF, the QTUM. But since we're talking about single stocks, that's the I that I'm going to throw in there. And then what's my last one? R, it kind of goes back to the theme of aerospace, and that's Mr. Rocket Labs with
Wow.
satellites and so forth. Another high flyer.
Yeah.
But again, I think that this theme stays. I don't think I think that these things could be in the early innings. So that's what you could have used RCAT there and too, but I like Rocket Labs. It's a name that I traded towards the back end of 2024, and I still hold a position in it. So there you go. I try to go through it very quickly. A lot of stocks, a lot of themes.
You got a lot in there, Christian.
Quasi.
You did.
Yeah,
I love the
quasi-
chair acronym, and you can clearly see the type of Christian, the difference between me and Christian, is I got a little bit of contrarian. I mean, he's pure Momo. And if you look at all of his stocks, just going through them all again here, starting with CEG, obviously a huge story in 2024. That story continues in 2025. The H Robinhood, it's a stock that I like as well. I mean, Robinhood is, doing everything right. Management's been unbelievable here to figure it all out, and they keep doing things right. The A was, I forget the A.
Aerospace.
In share, though. The A in share. Okay.
The Broadcom.
Oh, yeah, Broadcom, which, again,
Yep.
Consolidation near the highs is never a bad thing when you're consolidating near the highs, and continues here. IONQ has been a story that he brought us, Christian, like back when it was in its 20s. It's now in its 40s, so fantastic call by you there as well, in this stock as well. And then the R was...
Rocket
Labs.
Rocket Labs. And that's been a story stock too. I was in Rocket Labs. I bought this originally at $8. I sold at 14. That's me. Sold too soon. I was like, well, that's a pretty good move. I'm up like 80% on this thing in a month. Here it is, 29. I'm like, why did I sell? And I've sold my Lunar too, and that's similar to Rocket Labs, obviously moving up. I was in that from $7. I wrote that one up pretty well. I actually just sold the last of my stock up here at like 19. Things 22 though. These stories, these themes continue. And I mean, our themes kind of go against each other to a certain extent, because you're pure Momo. And I mean, obviously, if we have a fade year, some of these themes could change. But if we continue to have a Momo year, I mean, what's your thoughts overall? I mean, do you think S&P's up 25% again this year? Like, what are your thoughts there? Because obviously, a lot of these momentum plays would be dependent on the market continuing to remain strong.
I don't. I mean, I think that we could have a market like we've kind of started off with, where you've got some outperformers and some underperformers. I mean, I think that the market will be up this year, but I don't think that we're going to have another. Yeah, I think it was like up 24% and then up another 24%. Somewhere 24 or
Yep.
25 for the year 2023 and 2024. No, I think that you're going to continue to kind of see. I don't think healthcare I'll be watching, but look at what healthcare is doing. So in terms of underperformance. And so that could change. It's going to be a long year, but no, I don't expect that strong of a year. But I think that some of these themes are going to continue to play out. Some of them could be the early innings.
Okay, all right, man. Wait, for acronyms, I think we got like a dozen stocks here and ETFs covering everything. So extended time here on pre-market prep. We're going out near the highs of the pre-market session. We're already at last week's high. So let's see if we can just hold these gains off the open. Little analysts definitely getting things going on this Monday to start the year. Tomorrow morning, we'll talk to Cameron Dawson, and she's
Oh,
from
nice.
New Edge. Yep, Cameron is going to get on and give us her outlook for the year. Folks, thanks a lot for joining us here on an extended pre-market prep. Back with you tomorrow morning.